Our theme verse, actually, with our theme is from Psalm 71, 20 and 21. Ladies, I fell upon this verse, and I hope this verse can stick in your minds here tonight. Let's read it and just let those words resonate to you tonight. And it says, "You who have made me see many troubles and calamities will revive me again. From the depths of the earth," we can read it together. Let's do that. "From the depths of the earth, you will bring me up again. You will increase my greatness and comfort me again." You know the word that stuck out to me? Right, let's clap, is the word will. Ladies, our God is not saying, well, maybe. He will increase your life. He will bring revival to you. And I know it because you know what? Right now, that verse is so passionate for me because it's come alive in my own life. It's been a tough season for me personally, and I know that it's been a tough season for some of you out there. And our goal tonight is just that this conference can be a place of authenticity, that this conference can be a place where we are real with each other tonight, where we are raw, where you hear some real stories. Melody was talking about stories. You hear some real stories of women who have been revived again, that God has increased their life. And hopefully that could be a voice of hope for you. And so I'm passionate about this verse because, again, it's coming alive for me. It's been a tough season. I'm actually going to lead by example, and I'm actually going to demote myself off the stage and come down with you beautiful ladies because I'm going to lead by example and be a little bit real and raw with you. And this takes a lot of courage for me, so give me a lot of grace, okay? But I've struggled a lot in my life, and one of the areas of struggle that I've struggled in is I've just never felt like I've measured up completely by the world. How many of you sometimes feel like, gosh, especially today with social media, the social media thing is telling us that we are of no value and we don't measure up compared to everybody else out there on the post. And I've questioned my value a lot growing up, and I've had destructive thoughts that said, I'm just not smart enough to accomplish. I'm just not smart enough to succeed. And you see, in my early 20s, my struggle in my life, it started in my early 20s. And it was a time and a place where my self-worth got a little damaged because I was trying to pursue this career that I thought that God wanted me to do, and I could not pass a certain test to get into this career. And it was a time in my life where maybe some of you are in your early 20s, and those are pivotal years. You're starting to form who you are in those years. And so I struggled trying to go this path that I thought that was my path. But I failed this test 10 times. I don't give up. I'm a fighter. But you know what? I never did pass it. And so that sent me kind of into a very hard place. And I was very defined by this failure for many years. And I started realizing that I was starting to numb this pain in my life. And by always needing to strive for more. I felt like if I just strive for more, I wanted to prove to myself that I wasn't a failure. I wanted to prove to everybody else that I did have value. So I lived my life just constantly struggling in my striving and never really thriving, ladies. Never in my struggle, I never really thrived to be the person that God created me to be. I never embraced myself through this struggle. And so after 30 years of being exhausted by this struggle, how many of you can relate? There's maybe an issue in your life, a struggle, and you've been struggling for it for maybe 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. For me, it's been 30 years that I've lived with this struggle, and it was really time for me to deal with it. I could no longer numb it anymore. And I had to deal with it because I was exhausted by this struggle of always striving. I was exhausted of trying to figure out who I was and what my value in life. And I was fed up, ladies. I was fed up with my identity being hacked by the biggest hacker of all. And you know who that hacker is? It is the enemy. And for those of you, I know some of you may be new to church, and you've come with a friend. But when we're trying to live our lives with God in our life, there is an enemy right behind you that's trying to keep you from living your life with God. He hates God. He does not want you to have a life of God. And so he's going to do anything he can. He's going to find your weak points, and he's going to try and destroy you. And that's what he tried to do for me for so many years. So I was fed up with him. I'm like, I'm booting you out of my life, Satan. I don't need you anymore. You're destroying my identity. And so I can imagine that there's some of you here tonight, and you're exhausted. You're exhausted in this struggle that you've been struggling with for 20 years. Joyce Meyer. I love her. How many of you listen to Joyce Meyer? She's awesome. I'll never forget, one day I was listening to her, and she said, if you're still struggling with the same thing for 20 years, girlfriend, you are not free. You are in bondage. She was speaking right to me. I'm like, I am not free. I'm still I struggle. And some of you are wondering, like I did, am I ever going to be set free? Am I ever going to be released from the struggle in my life? And you will, because our verse says you will. You will be revived again. But guess what, ladies? It's going to take work. It's going to take work. It's not going to just happen with you sitting back. It's going to take work. So it's time to get real and raw with God. Okay? It's time to get real and raw with God. Psalm, again, 71:20 says, you who have made me see my troubles and calamities will revive me again. And you know what real and raw, that's what this conference, we want this to be tonight. You know what real and raw looks like? For those of you who are in a struggle right now, like I was, when you're at your lowest, I had some hard moments with God. I cried on my floor. I said, I had a lot of anger, and I gave God my anger. I told him how it was. And that's that's okay, because that's just with you and God. It's okay for you to give your anger to God. Tell him how you feel. Tell him that you don't trust him. Tell him that, you know what, I don't see that you have favor over my life. Whatever's hurting you, be real and raw with your God in your closet, in your secret place. Because it's during those times when you're real and you're raw with God that he begins to do something miraculously. He begins to start covering you with his love. He starts remaking you as a person, and that's what he did for me. God revealed my troubled spirit. He was healing me. I was beginning to, as I was real and raw with him, he was showing me, helping me to find my value in who I was, who my mother, who's sitting here tonight, birthed me. Wonderful mother, who I was and not what I did. And not the title I have or the position or the career, but it was who I was as a person, how he created me. I began to start realizing that my value is not in, what's this? The thumbs up, the likes, right? My value is not in how many likes I have on Facebook. My value is not on how many likes I get on Instagram. And what's so terrible is our culture is defining our value like that right now. And so it's ruining. I just heard someone today say how a friend of hers was saying, I don't even know myself anymore. And I don't think I measure up anymore because she's been so affected by her social media. I was beginning to see that my value wasn't in the approval of other people, because I was a people pleaser. And the other thing that God was doing in my life when I was during this time of being real and raw was he was showing me, because a lot of times our struggle and our pain is a result of maybe where you're falling short. You know, we all have places in our heart that aren't not pure, that we need to clean out. And he was showing me places where I was falling short. And ladies, that's called sin. For those of you who maybe are not church, I really don't like the word sin because it doesn't relate to someone who's not in church every Sunday. But sin is basically where you've fallen short. So he was taking me to this place of some ugly places in my own heart, you know, some pride, some jealousy, some whatever it is, ladies. And he's starting to clean that stuff out. And then he also taught me how to admit. That's called confession. For those Catholics out there, that's called confession. Admitting where I was falling short. And so this process of allowing God showing you where you're falling short and where he wants to help clean you and admitting to him, this process is necessary for revival to happen. This is what we're talking about tonight. We want to revive women's lives, but we have to get to a place as women where we are one-on-one with God and we are real and raw with him. So in my pursuit, ladies, of surrendering my pain, I started seeing him add increase in my life. And I say this and I bring this story to you not to glorify myself and not to put myself on a pedestal here tonight at all, but to be a model and to be an example for you ladies who are struggling, because believe me, I've been there. I've been there. If you're struggling, if you're down in the depths, I can relate with you. And a couple people in this room will vouch for that. But I was beginning to see God starting to bring increase in my own life. And how he was doing that was he was changing my perspective on things. He was changing my perspective. I was starting to embrace me and not reject me, because I rejected myself. I've had a lot of rejection in my life. And so I put that on myself. I was rejecting me. And the beautiful thing now is that he's restoring me in that area. And his power is so real, ladies. His power is real. And that's what we hope that you can get here tonight, is seeing the power how he's worked in other people's lives. And that power is not just for those other women. That power is for you. That power is for you. And what you can do, ladies, is go on a journey. Go on a journey with God. And our struggle and our things and our pain, they may not completely go away. If we have a health issue, we're not here to live for perfection. Perfection gets when we get to heaven. But my encouragement for you ladies is to start maybe going on a journey with God. And as you journey with him and you add him more into your life, all of a sudden you will find that you may not be as mad at God as maybe you have been. That's what being on a journey with God looks like, is that you're not as mad with him. Also, you begin to find peace in your adversity. Like I said, we're not going to reach perfection. But when you bring God into your life, there's something miraculously that happens. There's peace in our adversity. And then there's another thing that he does. He releases and sets you free of whatever's holding you in bondage. And so it is a journey. So our takeaway here tonight, ladies, when you go home tonight and you're laying in your bed and you're thinking about this conference, what did I get from this conference? Here's the one takeaway that I hope maybe you can write this down. Put it in your notes on your phone. This is the takeaway, that our lives will increase and our lives will be revived when we become real, raw, and restored by God. Isn't